and I'm going to make you the host. And
Okay.
you're now the host. Ian.
Okay,
Mute
well,
him, Ian,
you
mute
forgive
him.
me, but I'm going to mute you.
Brilliant.
Little-
Can I-
Carry on, Dave.
No, it's Trevor.
Okay, right.
ma-
So, Trevor,
Shut him up.
tell us how you started with your refereeing and
And have you sought psychiatric help?
Well, it's all a long, long time ago, isn't it? I started refereeing in 1967 at the age of 19.
Blimey.
And the reason was I kept going to Hillsborough and seeing all these terrible performances by referees. And I thought, if I can't do better than that. So foolishly, having played in the Meadowhall Sunday League and the Sports and Athletic League, that sort of thing, I took the referees course and started refereeing at the age of 19. Because of work commitments, I had to retire at the age of 40. So I did 20 seasons altogether. And now I think I can still do better than some of the referees that's on the Division 1.
Yeah.
But there we are. I had to give up refereeing because of work commitments. And what did me was the change of the Central League from Saturdays to midweeks. Also, the Vauxhall Conference, on which I was refereeing at the time, was also having more midweek fixtures. That meant me having more time off work, and I simply couldn't do it as in a management position. I couldn't keep having half days and full days off. So unfortunately, I finished refereeing what I think 2 seasons or 3 seasons before the full-time professional referees came into being. At the time, I was getting good assessments. Whether I would have ever got to the middle, I don't know. But you know, you don't look back; you just do what you need to do at the time. So I suppose the things you're interested in are the professional leagues, and I think in the 1985 Cup semi-final replay was when I was highlighted, as it were. Came back to the referee. Manchester United were playing Liverpool, and the replay was at Main Road after the first match had been played at Goodison Park, ended in a draw. In those days, the referees were reappointed to the replay, but the linesmen weren't. So I got no experience of the first game, but I was on the line for the second. Full house at Main Road. Because it's a big crowd, you don't hear individual shouts. It's just a general roar that goes up. And it was a fairly quiet game, to be honest, on the field of play. Liverpool scored first. Manchester United won the match 2-1. And we all went home. And I got home in time just to see the end of the highlights show on television, where they interviewed George Best, who was retired from Manchester United anyway. I can't remember whether he retired from football altogether. But they were interviewing him, and they said, what about that winning goal, George? And he says, well, and he laughed, and he says, I think the linesman was courageous. And at that point, I thought, what have I done? You know, and it transpired that people thought that the second goal was offside. It was Mark Hughes, I think, who scored it, and he was quickest to react to a very nice through ball. I had no problems with the decision. None of the crowd started yelling at me. So there we go. The following morning, 2 of my work colleagues came up to me and said, what are you doing allowing that? That wasn't a goal. You know, it should have been offside. I never even thought about it, to be honest. Fortunately, the BBC seemed to think it might have been offside as well, because Bob Wilson was hosting the sports shows in those days. And by the Saturday, bearing in mind this was a Wednesday night, I think, on the Saturday, they'd actually drawn a line across the pitch, a la VAR nowadays, and proved that Hughes was onside, actually, but he was onside. So decision vindicated, but I suppose that was the forerunner of VAR and what have you nowadays, you know. But it was the first time that they'd done that. I wrote to Bob Wilson and said, I wonder whether you could send me a copy of that little excerpt that you've done. And he wrote back a very nice letter and saying, unfortunately, it's done on a reel. So that's how far we're going back now. He says, and I can't send it you, unfortunately. So I haven't got that for posterity, but I presume it's still on YouTube somewhere. I don't know. So that was the big thing. Manchester United went on to beat Everton in the final. And since there's been controversy, I think, in the Everton game as well, I think there was a handball leading up to the winning goal there. You know, people were saying, "Oh no, we've got to do something about this," when really everything was hunky dory. You know, so that was that. The big game before that, I suppose, I was on and people have mentioned this twice already in messages, so I think somebody knows the answer to this. 1984, I think it was, quarter-final of what was then the Milk Cup at Grimsby Town against Norwich City. And I was on the line again there. Norwich were then mid-table First Division, now Premier League, of course, and they had such stalwarts as Chris Woods in goal, Mick Shannon, who was in the twilight of his career, John Dean, played for Villa, Asa Hartford, who was formerly at West Brom. He was the hole in the heart guy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And the best centre halves I've seen as a pairing, Dave Watson and Steve Bruce. And of course, Dave Watson was at Rotherham at one time, went on to play for Everton for a number of seasons. And we all know what happened to Steve Bruce. But they were the pairing for me. It was winter time. I think it was January. In the morning, it started with a few flakes of snow in Sheffield. And I thought, I wonder whether they're going to play. And it got a bit thicker. And I thought they're never going to play in this. But anyway, went over. And there's had several inches of snow in Grimsby, or Cleethorpes as it is. And when we got to the ground, they'd worked miracles really to get the actual pitch, the playing surface clear. So there were only a few flakes of snow on the actual playing surface, but surrounding the pitch was a bank of snow all the way around four sides of the ground. And it was about, 2.5 feet deep. And they'd left me and the other linesmen about 2-3 feet of actual grass past the touchline and between the snow to run up and down. So there wasn't a lot of room. It was television cameras were there, Yorkshire Television. The commentator came in before the game, had a nice little chat with all of us, got us names and what have you. And the game itself was a very good game indeed, considering the surface. Norwich won 1-0. Nothing happened until I think it was somewhere in halfway of the second half when the ball started to come towards me at a fairly fast pace. And I thought, it's going to hit me. The easiest way, of course, is just to either stop running or to move. But there are also two opposing players running towards the ball, intent on trying to keep it in play. So I got a little problem there. In normal conditions, you'd stop or you'd move or you'd just step back. So in the normal conditions, I stepped back straight into a bank of snow and fell backwards and slid down the bank of snow ever so slowly. Got up as fast as I could. Play went on. Nothing was said. Didn't even hear the crowd laugh. You know, the end of the match came and I thought, oh, thank God Yorkshire Television's here, but it's been a smashing game. In the highlights that they have now, they didn't show the match live. In the highlights they have now, that'll never be shown, thank goodness for that. Again, the highlights were being shown late at night, and I'd just got home when I saw, oh, Trevor Curtis from Sheffield is the linesman over there who's gone over the snow, sort of thing. So I thought, oh God. But it's late at night, probably nobody's seen it, you know. Got to the office the following morning, and three of them stood there with cards, 6.0, 5.0. So, slightly embarrassing, I must say, but we live to tell the tale afterwards. I suppose the other time on television, and I'm still on YouTube, but only just. Cyril Regis as goal of the season. He scored in the FA Cup against Norwich, actually, at the Hawthorns. Collected the ball round about the halfway line, and if you look very closely, you'll see a very small figure in black on the far side, and that's me. And I'm on for about a tenth of a second before he dribbles past 4 or 5 players and plants it in the net. So I suppose they're my claims to fame, really. You know, there's been all sorts of little incidents, like a dog tried to get me flag at Bolton, second division match, and he was tugging on it for about 5-6 seconds before I managed to wrench it back. Don't know where the dog came from, don't know where it went to. And then at Bury, a fan rushed onto the pitch and tried to take the flag off me. Nothing had happened before, nothing happened afterwards. He just decided to come on, young lad, about 20 years old, I suppose he'd be. Tried to get hold of the flag, again, wrenched it off him. Nothing at all said. You know, in those days, football just carried on. Nowadays, you'd have cameras all over, wouldn't you, replaying it and people getting arrested and what have you. So, different times. I suppose another thing that stays in my mind was I was on the line at Ellen Road against Liverpool. Kenny Dalglish was playing for Liverpool, and he came over towards my area within sort of 10 yards of me with his back to goal. Trevor Cherry was right behind him, marking him. And before the ball got there, Dalglish raised his foot, back-heeled straight into Cherry's leg. My flag was halfway up by then. Trevor says, no, don't ref. He says, wait, well, next time. So the flag stayed down, play carried on. 5 minutes later, almost the same position, and Cherry went straight through Dalglish, through the back of him. Probably a sending off nowadays, then just a free kick. He says, it's all right, ref, you know, and everybody got on with the game. Dalglish never said a word. He was happy because he got his revenge. Everybody carried on. Again, we'd have had a red card for certain today.
Trevor,
it's a lot of, yeah.
Trevor, if Dalglish had said a word, you wouldn't have understood what it was.
But he was one of the quick ones, wasn't he? Yeah. You know, you think of Bremner and Giles and Hunter and people like that, and yet there's Madeley, Cherry, who weren't angels, you know. But that was the other thing. But it now sticks out in my mind, the differences of today. When we were either refereeing or lining at that level, we got an instruction from the Football League. And it was a very brief instruction, and almost word for word, it said, referees must control the game. How they do it is their own, I think it was manner or something like that, or method or something like that, but they must do it. and must was in capital letters. And that was the instruction for the Football League. Now I think referees talk about managing the game
Yeah.
rather than controlling the game. And it's a totally different attitude altogether. It's almost as though a referee is running at the side of the game, hoping that not much happens. Whereas in the past, you had people like your Keith Hackett's, your Michael Lowe's, who actually controlled the game, who made a decision, and that was it. There wasn't any argument from it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
totally different.
And Trevor, being on the touchline, you'll have come across quite a few different managers who offered you words of pearls of wisdom.
You could say that.
Yeah.
It's difficult really, because you're whizzing past, hopefully at a great rate of knots, or crawling past, and sometimes you're having to stand on the halfway line because the player's in the other half of the field. So there are people who say things to you. I remember at Hull, I can't remember who the manager was, but the coach was one of the ex-United players from a long time ago. And he was ranting and raving for a foul for them in the opposing half of the field. I sort of let play go on because the other side had got Hull had got the advantage, and actually went down the other end and scored. And I said, that one's for me, which was probably one of the only times I answered back. Because once you start a discussion, then there's only one winner, isn't there? That's them. They're going to have the last word. The most notable one for me was Brian Clough, who didn't say a word to you, but when you went in the dressing room beforehand to check the equipment, he got everybody to sit down and put the feet in the air so you could look at the studs, and feel at them if you wanted. The reason was you're in and out quickly, and he's got more time to give instructions pre-match, of course. But the discipline he had there, and also in the box as well, you never heard anything about you or the referee's decisions from him. It was only about instructions on the field of play to the players. I do remember our friend Mr. Warnock, who was managing Scarborough at the time, and I had a FA Youth Cup tie. I was in the middle, Chesterfield against Scarborough. Chesterfield won 3-0, and it could have been 6, 7, 8 really. Scarborough youth team weren't particularly very good. After the match, he's waiting in the tunnel afterwards and saying, "Hey referee, you're favouring the top team again, are you?" And I thought, Chesterfield, the top team, was the first thought that came into mind. But it did strike me that a youth cup where they'd easily lost 3-0 and he's still waiting in the tunnel to have a go at the referee.
Yeah.
And I've never got on with Warnock as a person, never would. So it's not my type at all.
Yeah, there's no wonder the referees nicknamed him Colin.
I don't know. I'll probably have another nickname for him actually, but there we are. But
Well, it amounts to one of the same.
But yeah, I think
Who's
that's
manager now?
I had 8 years on the league line. I refereed for, I think it was 11 years on the Central League, and eventually got on the Vauxhall Conference, which is now the National League, of course. And there you've got some non-league players, youngsters coming up. You've got players who were on the way down, who knew the tricks of the trade. And it was a really good apprenticeship. The Northern Premier is sort of kick them from behind sort of thing, where you can send 4 or 5 off at a time. But the Central League and the Vauxhall Conference, as it was then, were much more subtle. And you had to be in a good position to see some of the things that were going on, you know. So different type of challenge between the leagues.
Yeah, you didn't have any instances where you did a Brian Coddington and sent lots of players off in the same game?
No, I didn't, fortunately. And I think Brian, if I may talk about him, he's not here today, is he? But he was a very, very good referee. And he went up to the top league and refereed as though he got the laws of the game in front of him, and he said, this is what's going to happen. Now, you've got to have a bit of give and take, unfortunately, in the Football League, and he didn't do that. He refereed by the book, got penalised for it, and it eventually got taken off the league but put back on again, which says a lot for his ability that he got back on. But, you know, he was there. He said, I'm going to referee my way. Whereas nowadays, I think we're getting more to say, especially with VAR, we're getting people who say, you've got to referee this way.
Yeah.
And the result of that is lots of holding, lots of shirt pulling, you know.
Right. Trevor, I'm going to have to leave you. So I'll leave you, the rest of the lads, to fire questions at you. So thank you for today. And I'll see you all next week, chaps.
Yeah.
Cheers, guys.
Keith.
Have a
Cheers,
good day.
Keith.
Have a good
See
day,
ya.
Keith. Yeah.
Have a good
I hope
season.
so.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, Keith. There he was gone.
Any questions then, boys?
Trevor, I always, you go to a game and you inevitably see a through ball and all the defenders put their arms up in the air. Does that actually have any effect to intimidate you as a linesman into actually putting your flag up, or is it just a
No,
waste of time?
it doesn't, because the first thing to be is in line with the second rearmost defender.
Mm.
You've got to be able to watch that and also watch when the ball is last played. Now, that can be anywhere from 5 yards back to 55 yards back. So you've got all on trying to keep that in your range of vision. You haven't really got time to see what the players are appealing for. I think, though, it's a good point, because Arsenal, for instance, in Tony Adams' day, all did that, didn't they? They sort of stopped playing and put their arms up, almost inviting you to raise
As featured in Full Monty. Yeah.
Yes. But I don't think that they were doing it for that particular decision. I think they were doing it to try and get the next decision.
Yes. Yes.
Which is what players do to surround the referee nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah.
The referee's not going to change his mind,
No.
but it might change his mind next time, or it might just push him over to their way of thinking next time, you know. So, no, I must say that never came into view. You've got all on thinking about what's going to happen next. And offside is the big decision.
Yeah.
You know, throws, okay. If you get one wrong, perhaps it doesn't matter. If you're flagging one way and the referee points the other, then that's embarrassing for a few seconds and the crowd will see it. But after that, you're back in the flow, and a throw-in doesn't often lead to a goal, whereas a doubtful offside or an offside that gets through could very well lead to a goal. You know, so that's your big decision as a linesman or assistant referee. And as I say, there's only one place to be, that's level with the second rearmost defender, because then you can tell where people are, whether they've got the knees past the defender or whether they're level or whatever.
Sure.
Talking about,
Sorry. Go on, Jonathan, if you like. Yeah, go on.
I was going to say, talking about throw-ins, how many times do people get penalised for foul throw-ins?
Hardly ever.
Yeah.
Haven't the rules changed this season? because it appears that you can take the throw in from almost wherever you want to with both feet on the pitch. It
Yeah.
doesn't really matter if the ball goes behind your bed. The throw-ins are chaotic this season.
That's
But
only
Keith
for
told me that the rules have changed.
that's only for the away team at Hillsborough, though.
Right there, Trevor.
Did you notice in the Gillingham match? I mean, that right back
Yeah,
walking across
Yeah,
when he took the throw, where his feet is 1 foot
I
off the
noticed that.
yeah, yeah,
Is it right? I mean, Tommy Spur was an example of that, where he always took the long throw for Wednesday,
yeah,
but he only used one hand to throw it. The other
Yeah.
hand was a guiding hand. He didn't throw
Yeah.
it with both hands equally. It was sort
Yeah.
of doing that with it.
yeah, you're right.
Throw. But you are allowed, so long as feet are touching the line, then you're allowed to actually have part of your feet inside the field of play.
Yeah,
A ball is supposed to be delivered from the back of the head. Now, even on the European matches, you see people throwing it from about the forehead, don't you?
yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I say I'm not a league official now, of course. I think most people will talk about this managing the game and say, is a throw decision an important one? I think it is myself,
Yeah.
because it's setting a standard.
Yeah.
And every
Yeah.
referee used to set their own standards in games, and still to a certain extent do. But it would seem to me that they're letting all the little things go.
Yeah.
Those little things escalate into larger things.
Absolutely.
And an example of that was, I suppose, some years ago, we stopped the tackle from behind in about 6 weeks because we showed a red card to people who tackled from behind. Instead, people started pulling shirts. And now pulling shirts is quite the norm. You'll see, I think even in the Gillingham match, there was a shirt pull where there was a foot of shirt coming off,
Yeah.
and play went on. And there was no advantage being gained from that, because the referees are seeing these things and say, I better let the game flow a little bit. Unfortunately, that means that cheating is going to win.
Yeah.
You know, and
Absolutely.
you can see where sort of my brain goes. You've got the laws of the game. If you want them changing, get them changed. Because we've got in the United Kingdom, we've got 4 seats on the international board out of the 8. So if we want to change the laws of the game, we've got a great chance of changing them. So if you want to change the throw-in law, get it changed, but don't bend it so that it's almost breaking.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
Amen. Amen.
if you give a foul for pulling a shirt, and then you give another foul for pulling a shirt, and then you give another foul for pulling a shirt, they'll not do it. Because they understand. And it's the same with the penalty.
yeah.
You know, the number of times now we're seeing 2 arms around somebody's waist,
Yeah.
and they're getting away with it.
Yeah.
Now, one of the problems is the referee's position. You'll see that they go and stand in exactly the same spot for every corner. You know, in my day, you used to move around the penalty area, so you were in different positions.
Yeah.
And now that you see the goalkeeper with a forward onto him and the defender trying to get in between them, surely some of the time you could afford to be on the goal line rather than outside the area, where you've got players dashing into that 6-yard box and you can't possibly see what's going on, you know. And in my day, you used to only give a penalty when you were certain it was a penalty. Nowadays, you can't be certain it's a penalty because you can't see with all the crowd of players from where you're standing.
Yeah.
So it would seem to me, you know, and I'm obviously from the old school, but if you've got 17 laws, play to those laws. Don't play 15 and decide the other 2 is going to be something else entirely.
I think you were right when you said you could still do better than some of the refs. But it sounds of it, quite a lot of them.
Yeah, but it's like life today, isn't it? We seem to not to bother much with petty crime. So there's more petty crime. And some of those who are committing petty crime go on to more serious crimes, you know. It's exactly the same on the football field.
Right.
Players understand what they can get away with, and then they start testing the referee and the officials a little bit more, and they get away with a bit more. And sooner or later, it's going to be like American football, I think, you know, with people diving all over the place. I sound a bit old now, don't I?
But it's
You sound too intelligent and sensible to have been an official, Trevor. Yeah.
but it's back to the point about managing the game as opposed to controlling it. There's a standard to be maintained. If you don't look after the standard of the game, which is, I would suspect, one of your primary roles, then it just disintegrates into a free-for-all.
Yeah.
And everybody, when I was in the front row rugby, you're always looking to push the envelope, you know, to try it a little bit, particularly if you're striking for a ball. It's the same on the field. I mean, the one guy that really annoys me, and I'd love to have a word with, is Trent Alexander-Arnold, where he won't put the ball on the corner circle. He'll put it just over. Why,
Yeah.
son? What is the
That
point?
irritates me. Yeah.
What are you trying
What is
to
the
do?
point of that corner bit? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I would like to be the linesman say, put it on the white or you're off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
And
I mean-
penalties are not taken from the penalty spot anymore.
yeah.
No, I know.
They're overlapping the penalty spot,
I know.
which means they're less than 12 yards away from the goal line.
Absolutely.
yeah.
The
That's
spot
right.
is there for a reason, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it was supposed to be an inch further forward, they'd have put it an inch further forward.
Yeah. I mean, in my day, the law said that for a corner, the ball had to be wholly inside the quadrant.
Yeah.
So the outside of the ball couldn't be touching the line of the quadrant. Nowadays, it's exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
Part of the ball is over the outside of the line of the quadrant. It's still legal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, of course, then, as you say, you get players who want to put it 2 inches further up. It's well worth the referee going over the first time and saying, get it in. You know, and by getting it in, on the line is getting it in.
Yeah.
It's a mentality, it's a player's mentality. I just can't understand it.
Pathetic.
Maybe
You know-
I'm not, you know, paid enough to play sport to actually appreciate. But I can't understand the mentality. The ball goes out of play and everybody appeals for the throw. It's
Mhm.
bloody obvious it's come off that player. So why are you appealing, son? You know, it's ridiculous.
Do you think it's the case where if I appeal knowing that I'm not going to get the throw, the next time I appeal, the linesman might just give it me because he
Put
gave
some
it.
doubt in his mind. Yeah.
I think that's insulting your intelligence as a professional. I think you
Yeah.
should just have a quiet word with him and say, I know what you're trying to do. Stop it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll speak to the man because you're in
Yeah.
voice communication.
Yeah.
Alexander Arnold's being a twit. Watch him, you know.
Yeah.
Like that. It's the standard. You guys,
Yeah.
you're not there to control the game, as you said. You're there to manage, and managing is making sure the standards are upheld. You know, the reputation of the beautiful game.
Yeah,
my
that's
opinion.
right. I mean, for years and years, up until the last couple of years, people used to have to stand in their own half at the taking of a kickoff.
Yeah.
And I always used to have to insist on that because at the start of the game, you're in control.
Yeah.
If you let, even before you start, if you let somebody stand in the other half of the field of play, you've let somebody get away with something.
Yeah.
That might signal to the player. But if I say get in your own half, then they understand that there's somebody making a decision somewhere. You know. Nowadays, of course, people have to stand in the other half of the field of play, really, to pass backwards.
Yeah. And
Although
that's
you
don't
could
understand that.
Well, you could
Why
still
have they,
stand in
why
your
have they
own
done that?
half. I've no idea.
Ridiculous.
I mean, all the changes in laws in the last 2 years have been sort of papering over the cracks.
Yeah.
You know, the little things that don't change a lot.
Shuffling deck.
So why do it? Why not concentrate on the big things like a goalkeeper taking 30, 40 seconds to release the ball? why don't we insist on the 6-second rule,
Yeah.
which
yeah.
which is still there? You know, a goalkeeper is only allowed to hold the ball for 6 seconds. When
Otherwise,
you
you've
just,
got to
You
manage,
would never
yeah.
guess from watching football matches,
No.
would you?
yeah, you know, it just doesn't happen. And
No.
if anybody says, well, that's helping to improve the flow of the game, it doesn't, because the ball's stuck. Nobody can actually touch that ball now
Oh.
for several minutes over the 90.
Yeah, you're right.
I go back to, well, even our own goalkeeper at Hillsborough, holds the ball for quite a time. Not so much now with Bailey, but certainly with other goalkeepers. We've had cases where they're standing looking, and yet you're the home team wanting to press forward, you know, and they still don't get it into play quick enough. Same with the throw-ins. You can take a long time taking a throw-in. Why wasn't that Gillingham right back caution for delaying the game?
Yeah.
You know,
Again, my friend Trent Alexander-Arnold is the worst culprit of that. You watch him on. I think he has the ball in his hands more often than he has at his feet, to be honest.
yeah.
Anyway,
Slow
has Dave the
delay.
Beard got any news to finish?
I know.
And he
thought-
creeps up.
Okay, I'll try and get an email out to the rest.
Sorry.
Good man.
I'll try and get an email out to you all with the rest. But sorry, I just had to break off to take a call. My son's coming home this afternoon.
Oh, good. That's great news. That's good, Dave.
So I'll try and get that done and get it out to you. It's only the local news. And
Yeah.
one bit, British cycling legend Mark Cavendish spent a night in intensive care after suffering 2 broken ribs and a collapsed lung following a crash during a race at the Ghent Velodrome in Belgium. And that was the last bit of sort of national sport.
I just bought my son-in-law his latest autobiography yesterday as well.
We've got less than a minute, guys. If
Did anyone see? Sorry.
Go on, Chris,
Did anyone see
quickly.
Did anyone see Kevin Sinfield finish? He's at
Yeah.
101.
Incredible.
That's an incredible thing.
Yeah, superb.
That's an incredible thing.
300,000, doesn't he?
Yeah.
£300,000 he's made.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Guys, it's going to cut out any minute now. We've got less than a minute. So I wish
Get the
you well for
local
the
news
week.
on Look North, Dave.
Thank you, Trevor, as well.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Trevor.
Trevor.
No problem.
Thanks,
No
Trevor.
problem.
Very interesting.
Thank you.
Well done,
Okay.
Trev. Well done, mate.